Good morning and welcome back to the Closers Inner Circle podcast. We are your hosts, Denise Griffitts and Bengay III. And today we're tackling a situation that every single salesperson knows all too well. The prospect loved your presentation. They were nodding along, said all the right things, and then they didn't buy. So why does that happen? Where did the close stall? And more importantly, what can you do to diagnose it and move from I like it to I'll take it? And Ben and I are going to break down the most common reasons that deals stall, how to uncover the real objections that are hiding under polite smiles, and with the practical steps that you can take to turn interest into action. Because in sales, liking it doesn't pay the bills. Closing does. And if you would like to go deeper into these conversations, grab your copies of the Closers Books 1 and 2 by Ben Gay. And you're going to do that by going to Ronzoni Books on eBay, Ronzone Books on eBay. And these books arrive with free shipping and they're signed by Ben. And honestly, these books are the foundation for everything we discuss on this podcast. And you can follow along with us each week as we break down the timeless lessons inside. And today, this show is sponsored by What's Right with America. And that's written by Paul Johnson and Larry Aldrich. Now, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite books, and I consider it to be a very important book. It offers a refreshing break from the negativity that dominates today's headlines. And Johnson and Aldrich are leaders with deep experience in government, business, and media, and they don't shy away from America's flaws. But they refuse to let those flaws define us. Instead, they highlight the courage, the innovation, and generosity, and not to mention grit that have shaped this nation. Their message is a timely reminder that liberty, free enterprise, and democratic values have empowered generations of Americans to solve problems and create a brighter future. And this book is now available on Amazon. Good morning, Ben. I'm losing my voice.
Good morning.
Go figure.
That book is on my list of things to do and get, and I haven't done it yet, so I'm glad you brought it up again, and I'm glad they're sponsoring us. I'm honored.
It's an amazing book. And when they contacted me and said, "Can we come on your show?" and this is our book, I went, "Oh my goodness." They actually joined me. They took the time to join me on July 4th, and we broadcast that day. It's an astonishing book. Look, I love America. You love America. Yeah, we've got things that are, maybe going a little sideways, but I never, ever, ever give up on my country, ever.
Amen. And I'm sure a lot of people think we're in deep trouble now. I'm thrilled. If you're listening to this 2 or 3 years from now, I'll speak just for myself. I'm referring to the second Trump administration. But I've had times when I thought, oh my God, it's gone. In a couple of past administrations not too long ago, but somehow I've always fallen back on this country is too great to fail,
Right.
too big, too many people in it. And when pressed to the wall, they always rebound. We were having a bad time right before 9/11 when the planes hit the towers. And the resiliency of the American people and their attitude once that happened gave me hope when George Bush Jr. was standing on the pile of rubble and on top of the vehicle and said, we've heard you, the whole world has heard you, and the rest of the world is going to hear you soon. I thought, oh, okay, we're in good shape. And he's standing in piles of rubble, several stories tall, and talking about the resilience and how we'll come back. I had a similar experience doing Apollo 13. I happened to be in San Francisco working that week or couple of days, and spending more time in tall office buildings than I normally do. And every time I would be waiting for an elevator and the elevator doors would open because I'd been on the outside, everyone in the elevator would say, how are they? How are they? Are we okay? Trying to get the astronauts back on Apollo 13. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. We fight and scream and carry on and hate one another. But when something really goes wrong, we pull together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And look at, the Texas, the floods and, hurricanes and all these natural disasters. And I don't believe in climate change, so don't even get me down that road. Look, I live in the South. My climate changes every 4 hours. That's all there is to it. And I'm paying attention and I'm watching the dog because she really is paying attention. But when you start looking how people just stop what they're doing and they show up, we see it in hurricanes here. I mean, all of a sudden you'll see all of these giant trucks coming by from utility companies all over the country, and they're coming to help us. They just drop what they're doing and they show up. There is so much good, and I have to remind myself honestly because I'll get caught up in all the garbage that's on social media briefly, and then I'll realize, hey, honest to God, there are more good people around than there are bad. We're just hearing about the bad people
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Well, a small, loud minority. Um, and although I'm all in favor of social media and so on, and not having it tied up with three networks that aren't necessary in the old days, NBC, ABC, CBS, if they didn't say it, you didn't hear it. And if they didn't say it, you didn't believe it. But that was a different generation, Walter Cronkite and that gang versus the current crowd. So with the current crowd, I thank God for the other news outlets. And
Yeah.
I thank God for social media, even though so much of it is just junk. I can pretty much skim through it, and I'm enough of a reader and historian to know when something's true. I can really smell BS rather quickly. And I think it's so great that everybody at least has the opportunity to know. And then you watch Jesse Waters on Fox News, and he has his assistant, Johnny, going out and talking to people on the street or on the beach or whatever. Yesterday, he was at some beach in Florida talking to a bunch of very pretty girls in very brief bikinis, so it sort of got my attention. Gigi said,
No.
Gigi said it got my attention too much.
Were
But
your
then when
eyes
you get,
sticking out on stalks? You know, those
yeah,
cartoons.
yeah, but
I
it's,
had a picture in my head.
I don't know if they edited him and only put the stupid people on, or he can't find any smart ones. But what that generation of people, late teens into late 20s, doesn't know is just astounding.
It's frightening. I don't watch the news, but I do see it on, snippets on X mostly. And I think I saw what you were talking about. And I thought, oh, they're pretty. They're not fat. They're not twerking. Oh, good. Oh, no. Once, okay,
They're
never mind.
stupid.
They're blindingly so.
I mean, they miss whole countries when asked certain questions, and many times the one they got wrong, they're standing in it. The answer was the United States, and they're guessing obscure names and mispronouncing the names they're guessing. And you think, God, where my kids aren't geniuses, pretty successful, but I've never heard them ask a question in that format that all of my kids couldn't have answered. All of them.
Uh, education has it, education is in deep, deep trouble. We all know that.
Yes.
And unless you are willing as a person, as a human, as an American, to do some of your own education and exercise some critical thinking skills, you're kind of screwed.
You know, when 30 states, I think it is, something like that, have now banned cell phones in schools.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's my attitude. And they were going back and forth about it. Overall, all the teachers love it, and surprisingly, after a day or two, most of the students loved it. They sort of looked up, oh, there's 28 other people in this class. I never knew that. And they're starting to socialize. Test scores are starting to rise where it's been in effect for a while. But I heard a great, you hear a lot of mumbling. Well, is that right? Don't kids have a right to do this? And some guy
No.
came on and said, if you're of my age, let me ask you this. When black and white television came out, did you all take a television set to school? No. Did you all take a this? No. It went through one out. So why the hell would you be allowed to have a distraction like a cell
Right.
phone? And well, what if the school is shot up? The teacher will have a cell phone.
And they
Uh,
have, those resource officers now, I think, in most schools.
most of them do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's refreshing that someone has noticed how stupid the society has become, ignorant,
Well, and
and
that's deliberate,
therefore,
Ben. We all know that's deliberate.
oh yeah, it is. But now that it's out in the open and has a name, it can be cured. And that's the good news, as long as we're all pretending. We've had three close friends give up their teaching career. Actually, two of them went to a private school where the kids are disciplined when they get there and remain disciplined. And if they're not, they're thrown out and their family loses the tuition. So you actually have a backer with the parents instead of an enemy. The parent is saying, don't get thrown out of there, behave,
Right.
so on. But it's right at the raggedy edge of frightening. But there's
Yeah.
always somebody, that kid who wanted to know if we were going to get homework on Friday afternoon. There's always someone who was the nerd who will rise up and create this new thing and this new thing and so on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a
Yeah.
minority will save us again.
Always, and it's always a minority. It doesn't, and we're not talking black, white, purple, or green. We're talking about a minority of people who are thinking, they're educated, they're always trying to create something. But I think it was you and I, go back just a little bit. I think it was you and I were talking when I was in school, and I was often sent to what do they call that? The room where they send the problem kids. But I
Well,
wanted to.
principal's office is where I went frequently.
Well, no, they didn't send me over there because he always wanted to date my mom, and she's finally just said, "I'm not coming back in there. Deal with her." But they always, it was bad. But they would. I can't remember now what it was, but it was this room. It was quiet. I could read, and nobody talked to me. I made it a point to go get kicked into that room a lot because I didn't want to be in the classroom. I hated being in classrooms. So, and I wanted to read, but I can't remember now. Detention. I was in detention a
Oh,
lot.
yeah, detention, yeah.
Yeah, but it was heaven for me. It really was. But I remember when I was younger, my mom would say, "Listen, the bus driver was named Reno." And I don't know why I remember him, but I do. But she said, "I'm going to tell all y'all right now, if Reno stops that bus and he says, 'Can I talk to your mom?' You're gonna get a whipping, and you're gonna get that whipping straight out of the bus. I'm not gonna take you in the house. I'm gonna do it in the yard." And I would say, "But what if he lies?" "If Reno told me." "Okay, okay, okay." So we
Yeah,
did our best not to screw off on this, I keep using that word today, not to mess up on the bus, because Reno would rat us out, and he
my
should. He should
my
have.
absolutely. My parents and I then did it with our kids. We'd go to school the first day. Parents were welcome, and mom and dad would say, and I repeat, I did it too, so it's the same message. They would say, "We know you have a tough job, and unless you do something horrible, we want you to know we're on your side.
Mhm.
We don't care what he says. We're on your side. If he says, I'm going to tell mother and dad, understand he won't because he knows we're on your side. That would be stupid of him to do." And so, and if you have something sincerely bad that's endangering you, the class, him, call us. And we'll be there within 10 minutes. So I never had that trap door that a lot of kids have. where I was talking to one of our friends who dropped out of teaching. And this one literally totally dropped out, didn't just go to private school. Said she'd had enough. And I says, is it the kids? She said, well, they're bad. It's not like it used to be. But the problem is the parents. So the parents don't understand presenting a unified front. The parents defend their kid. The kid could have a dead body at his feet, and the parents would be telling you about the misunderstanding. And Johnny had a rough childhood.
Yeah, he was a good boy.
Yeah, he's a
No, he
good boy.
wasn't. He was a little animal. I know. I don't understand. Okay, so let's go back. That was fun. So let's talk about, and we have some talking points because we really do want to talk about what Ben teaches, and it's not about pressure, but about helping someone make a decision they already know is right in sales, and then moving on to when a prospect doesn't buy. And I love this part. It usually comes down to one of three gaps, and Ben taught me this. The salesperson didn't uncover the real need, didn't create enough urgency, or, and I think this is really the kicker, didn't establish sufficient trust.
Yep. People buy. I've been saying this for over 50 years. And thanks to Rob Anspach, added a little tagline to it about a year ago. The way I used to say it was people buy or like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And to that, we added know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe.
Right.
And I thought that was an astounding way to sort of wrap it up when Rob first said that. You've got to give them. And then people say, well, that's easy for you to say. You've been selling for 60 years. And that's a little light. I've actually been making money for a little more than 60 years. So, and I have clients that I was doing business with 60 years ago that I did business with last week. So there is a little buildup. It's like a layer of snow. After 4 hard winters, you got more snow in your backyard than you can deal with. So there's a little bit of that. But here's the trick. It's to learn how to be known, liked, trusted, and felt safe with after 5 or 10 minutes. That's the real trick, is how fast. I tell several stories that I have about taking salesmen out in the field for client companies. And one of them said we were selling pre-need funeral stuff. Don't wait till you're dead to buy your plot or your plan or whatever. Do it now. And so we had 4 or 5, 6 to do that day. And I was the lead salesman so they could see what to do. And they all bought. One needed financing, as best I recall, but that got handled. So it was 100% close rate on the way back to the office. We're riding along, and this guy says, Mr. Gay, I really enjoyed that. Learned a bunch, but I would have learned so much more if all your sales hadn't been laydowns. Well, what he didn't understand is I got them to know, like, and trust me and feel safe with me while he was still trying to find a place to sit down in their home and hoping they'd give him a free Coke. The sale was over because of little things that I did and said and noticed, and their dog on my black suit. I always have a roller in the car because if they got a dog, he or she's going to be in my lap, and I wear only black, even casual, and that's not good when you're petting a white dog. So,
Or an orange cat.
or
Even
an
if they
orange
don't like
cat.
you, they are going to rub on you, promise you. They're going to look you right in the eye and just, go right across
Stare
your
at you.
kneecaps. Yeah, they're going to get you, and then they're going to walk off.
So those little things, they're worried about the first line they're going to say in their rehearsed presentation and so on. I'm selling Ben Gay and our personal relationship. I'm doing sales infiltration, as in the closers, part 2, page 257. If you read nothing else I've written in the 35 books or so that I've co-written, ghostwritten, written, whatever, read sales infiltration starting on page 257 of the closers part 2. That's the secret of selling at the professional level. I've worked with some of the greatest salesmen in the world, and whether or not they'd even heard the term sales infiltration, that's what they do. That's exactly what they're doing. And if you pay attention, if you're watching somebody else sell and they're good and you know what to look for, that chapter will tell you, you'll start saying, oh, there was the breakthrough. There went the trust. There went the likability. There went the so-and-so. I see what's happening now. And then when you get down to the end, here's my killer close. I use it probably 86% of the time, and I have an 86% closing rate. I might use it more than that, and I have an 86% closing rate. Doing those things effectively enables me, gives me license to say, based on what we've discussed, or based on what you've told me, here's what I suggest we do. We, the team, when you met at the door, there was team A, the salesperson, versus team B, the customer, who was going to put up resistance. Your job is to create team C. Previous teams agreed on solving a particular problem. Well, first of all, agreed on there is a problem, and then agreed on solving it and working towards the solution. So a lot of sales that are missed, and there are sales where they don't have the money, you didn't qualify them properly, they weren't qualified to buy your product, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, whatever. There are some that aren't objections, they're conditions, and they're not ever going to buy from you. There was a little period of time that we went through at the Wilson Learning Institute, Larry Wilson's old company, where we created some very popular phrases. Feel, felt, found was one of them. I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way. Here's what they found, or I felt that way. Here's what I found, etc. But one of the ones we came up with was say to yourself, he's asking me a question. What is the question he or she is asking me? And if you're in doubt, ask them. Say, I think the question you're asking me is, and I have used that many times, still do, but one time where I learned that all phrases aren't magical, I said to somebody, I think the question you're asking me is, he said, I wasn't asking you any question. I was telling you as politely as I could, I have no interest in your product and I'm not going to buy it. I said, oh, I misread the question. And we both laughed and I went on my way,
Right.
Next. Some will, some, as Tony Robbins or somebody used to say, Tommy Hopkins, I think it was, some will, some won't, next. We've all had 100% days, but if you're getting 100% on a regular basis, you're an order taker. Every cashier at every grocery store in America closes 100% because they stand behind the counter and ring up what you brought them. That's not selling, that's order taking, that's clerking. If you want to get into money, serious money, then you got to go over into the sales side, and that means picking up some of those iffy ones. You also have to figure out if they collapse too quickly, and agree with you, understand a little rule in selling, they're the first ones to bail out, to cancel the order, sometimes before you get back to the office.
Right. Because they felt pressured.
Yeah, whatever. But they wanted to get out of the situation. They figured the
Gotcha.
quickest way to get out of the situation was to say, yes, under the theory, they know they can phone before you get to the office, and in many cases, they've got 30 days to make up their mind anyway. And regardless of their company policy and or the policy of the product you're selling, they've got a credit card usually involved, and then get that canceled, whether you like it or not, and whether or not they return the product or not in many cases. So that's when something goes wrong. Those are some of the easy ones to spot. The other one, and the main one, is not setting the table properly. And by that I mean bring up the objections in advance. As Doug Edwards taught me many years ago, it's featured in the book I wrote for him, Sales Closing Power. If you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. Don't sit there waiting for the other shoe to drop. Selling Rolls Royces, the objection is the price. That's it. Now, everybody loved to have a Rolls Royce, and they run beautifully. They rarely have any problems. If they do, Rolls Royce will frequently deny it happened. There's a story of somebody whose Rolls Royce broke down on top of a mountain in India, and they flew a helicopter in, fixed whatever the problem was, and flew away. No paperwork, no bill. Car, I think, was out of warranty, but that's really not important to the attitude. After some period of time, the customer called the dealership or Rolls itself and said, "This happened to me, and I never got any bill." Then there was a little pause. He said, "Well, let me check." Came back and said, "We don't have any record of that happening, and things like that don't happen to Rolls Royces. So
Uh-huh.
don't worry about it." Now,
Uh-huh.
if they flew a helicopter to the top of Timbuktu in India,
Yeah.
there's a record of it
And these
somewhere.
days, there would be video. You couldn't avoid
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But they just denied it. Things like that don't happen to Rolls, so don't
That's
worry about
not
it.
part of their story.
Yep.
I'll be darned. Well,
And they
I
used
have a
to say, driving along in a Rolls at 60 miles an hour, the loudest thing you will hear is the ticking of the clock. And that was back
mm,
when the clock clicked. Now it's digital and nothing clicks. I'm sorry I
I
interrupted
thought
you.
it was just when somebody opened the Grey Poupon, pop that cap open. No, I had somebody I was chatting with the other day, and I just remembered it because she's fairly new to selling, or as she defines selling. We're all salespeople, but
Hmm.
sometimes we just don't understand it or know that we're actually doing it without knowing that we're doing it. And she was telling me that she was having this conversation with a couple of people, and they really wanted the service that she was offering. But when they said, I think they said something like, well, just, send me a note and tell me what the service will cost. And she jumped. She said she went too fast, and she told them right then and right there what it would cost. And she said it went silent. They weren't prepared for that. And
Was it
I don't
too?
have an answer for it. She said, well, what do I
Yeah.
do? I honestly don't know. I'm going to ask Ben.
I would ask the customer, is you're hesitating. Seconds ago, you were going to buy, and now you're hesitating. Was it because of the answer I gave you, the price? Or were you not ready to make a decision, so you didn't want the options sprung on you
Mm,
so quickly?
okay.
So
Well,
it's
she
one of
felt like
those
she
two.
rushed it. And when she was telling me about it, I was kind of clenching my stomach, going, yeah, you rushed.
Yeah, that's probably it. They wanted a little time. That may have been their way of saying, I want to think it over. It could have also been an opportunity for her to say, when I hear that, and I occasionally do, it's one of two things. Uh, you don't want to hear the price now because you don't want the pressure put on you now. And I
Oh,
understand that. Although you'll
right.
be pleasantly surprised with the price, it's less than it ought to be. Or you're being polite and you want to think it over, but you don't want to say that. Which one is it? Just so I know how to handle you from this point forward. And they'll tell you if you
Okay.
put it to them that bluntly. And that's also part of setting the table. I run through all of the, with the Rolls Royce and the objection is price. I've given you this story before. At British Motors in San Francisco, I trained them to say something along these lines when somebody came in. Hi, my name is Ben Gay. My pleasure. Here's my card. I assume you're here to look at whatever's on the floor, Rolls Royce, Bentley, or whatever. Yes. Before we get started, and I will do that for you in great detail, but before we get started, let me tell you what is a joy to meet people like you who have been so successful in their lives that they can invest $350,000 in Rolls. I'm thrilled all day long to meet people like that. You inspire me. Now, let's go look at the car. But meanwhile, you're checking their pupils to see if they doubled in size or if they vomited in the back of their throat, because some people walk into a Rolls-Royce dealership because it's raining outside.
Yeah, or they're beautiful cars and you want to just go look at one.
Yeah, you want to get up close and look at it.
Right.
So if $350,000 for a starter kit is a problem for you, let's cover that up front. So we don't waste each other's time. You just want to wander around, look at the car, fine. You have my card, wander around and look to your heart's content. Or B, do they need to be taken to the used car lot or the previously owned lot in a Rolls-Royce dealership? You want to be taken to the previously owned lot where they probably peak out at about 150,000 or less. So it tells you they just currently a joke, or are we in the wrong price range? And you don't know unless you ask a few probing questions. But don't throw them out too quickly. I've told you this before. My first car, senior year in high school, I think it was a 1936 Chevrolet that a neighbor had parked in front of their house, and I noticed there was a new Chrysler thing, yellow. I remember it was yellow, brand new car in the garage. But the 36 Chevy was out at the curb. So I went up and knocked on the door and I said, I think you got a new car and this is out here. Is it for sale by chance? And she said, yes, it is. $50. And
you have told me that, and I'm still shocked every time.
Yeah, well, that's what they were in 1960. I wish I'd bought it and stored it somewhere,
right,
because they're worth a lot more than that now. But it was $50. She didn't have anything else to sell me, so her treatment of me, which was fine, was immaterial. Then I bought a $150 Mercury and financed it through a friend's father who was vice president of the bank. I remember my payments were $10 or $11 a month. And so I got that. And then it came time to get probably a real car. So I bought a 1962 Volkswagen for $1,848. And two interesting things happened. One, to make sure I hadn't left anything in the Mercury, because I traded it in. I think they gave me $10 for it or something. But to make sure we hadn't left anything in, I opened the trunk and was hit with a wave of empty beer cans, because my friends riding around in the back had dropped through a hole where the speaker would have been, and they were going into the trunk. So the guy looked at me like I was some sort of animal, gave me the keys to the new Volkswagen, and away I drove. But he didn't treat me as well as he could have or should have.
Well, no, you were an alcoholic. I mean,
yeah, and a sloppy one at that.
No kidding.
So, but the next car I bought, a 1963 Buick Skylark, very bright red, 4 in the floor, brand new. That salesman treated me like I was the most important person on earth, like the guy who sold me the Volkswagen should have. But I was 142 pounds, still had traces of acne, had a flat top, and if I was dressed at all, I had on a cheap Robert Hall sport coat. Both of them saw the same outfit. It was just a few months apart, but the second guy ignored it and treated me like royalty. So then I got a job where I was in a position to give away cars to contest winners. I bought my next 300 cars from him, bought or leased. Some of those might have been from a guy in Marin County where I bought almost the same number from him. 600 luxury cars, Rolls Royces, Stutz Bearcats, Cadillacs, Lincolns, whatever. And basically two salespeople got those 600 orders because they treated me well. So even if you're turning away the Rolls Royce guy in the showroom, don't let him feel he's being turned away. Just don't devote your day to someone who vomited in the back of their mouth when they heard $350,000,
Right.
and treat them
And you
all.
don't know, they may come back. I mean, you
You
just don't
never
know.
know. You never know when they're going to reappear, and in what condition when they do. So treat them. It doesn't cost you anything to treat them well. The only thing that it can cost you if you don't do it intelligently is time. And that time might have been spent selling 2 other cars. So and then tell them, whatever your product or service, tell them, say, I really love working with you guys. You seem so neat. The last person I talked to, we went through all the stuff, everything he needed to know, and seemed interested. But then he had to check with a brother-in-law in Cleveland who's an accountant. Well, you and I know he doesn't have a brother-in-law
No.
in Cleveland. And if
Who
he did,
would? I mean, seriously.
yeah.
If you did, you wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah. So that becomes an objection they can't bring up. And you establish, I'll be straight with you. You be straight with me. I call it straight. I will answer any question you have, any question. And by the same token, all I ask is you be truthful with me. Fair enough. Fair enough. Just that little speech, you've wiped out 15 to 20 standard objections because they know they won't fly here. You
And you're
want a
treating
car,
each other like you're adults, active
right?
adults. You're thinking you don't want to be sold to. I hate being sold to. I mean, look, I'm a salesperson, you're a salesperson, but I can tell when somebody's just flat in my face selling me something because they want me to buy it, and that's the only reason. I can
You hear
tell.
us calls that commission breath.
Yes, that's
We say
exactly
you
right.
smell
Right,
commission breath.
right.
So
But
we
if you're
all
treating us like we're adults and we're treating each other as adults, you can cut down a lot of that fluff and you gain some trust.
Mhm. If he'd be honest with me about that, I probably don't have to worry about other things.
Right.
He or she is an honest person, and but everything has to be up front, should be up front on the table. Set the table. Here's how the game is played. I'm a salesman. You're a customer. I hope you'll buy something from me, and I hope I can be of service to you. But to do that most effectively and not waste your time or mine and go down paths we don't need to go down. Here's some of the rules. I operate straight. You be straight with me, I'll be straight with you. Fair enough. And fair enough is something I say probably 10 times in a sales presentation. It's hard to say no to and easy to say yes to. And if they have a real objection, it'll smoke it out. I've heard frequently, well, that's fair enough, but it doesn't solve my problem. Okay, I'm sorry. What's the problem? What's the specific problem? Dr. Hill wasn't trying to teach me selling, Dr. Napoleon Hill, when I met him, but every time I sat him down and we started through a problem of some sort I was having in the business, and I wanted his input on it, he would always tell me, okay, tell me now, where are we exactly? And where do we want to be when we're through exactly? Because if I don't know where we are and where we're going, I can't be of help to you. So in so many
And
ways,
that starts a whole new brain process, doesn't it?
it does. It does. It also, there's a tendency, I know I have it, to ask somebody to solve a problem with you without sharing all of the problem, because some of the problem might be sort of embarrassing.
Oh.
So, where are we now exactly? Do we have the money to pull this off? No. Well, then solving the problem, as stated, isn't the problem. The problem now is getting the money so that we can solve the problem. Correct? He said, correct. He said, okay, good. And he'd take his previous notes that he had and push them to the side. We're not up to deciding on gold caps for the cosmetic jars yet. If we don't have the money to buy any caps, the color is insignificant. So what we have is a money problem. And the assuming you're selling a quality product that's competitively priced and you're talking to a qualified person, the everything can be decided when they say it's not the money, it's the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the money. Or
At
they
some
don't need
level,
it.
absolutely. It's maybe, they're going to go home and their wife's going to hit them with a club for buying that. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's not in their budget or they can't see the value. I mean, there's just so many reasons, but it's always the money. For me, it is. If
Yeah,
you're offering me something and I really, really want it, you're going to have to prove to me that when I buy it, I'm not going to be mad at myself.
yeah. We have a saying that we used to use in the distributor business: sufficiently inspired, just about anybody can raise just about any amount of money.
All right, I've heard you say that.
Sufficiently inspired, and that's the trick. Your job as the salesperson to get them sufficiently inspired. The day Jimmy Rucker and I and Zig Ziglar joined Holiday Magic Cosmetics, it was $91.41. Today, that would be $911.40. My math may be off, but times 10, 91.41 times 10. Even today, that's something people think about. Well, back then, it was just as significant. It was just a smaller number. But in that conversation, Bill Dempsey convinced me and the others, but I was the decision maker for Rucker and me. He convinced us we could be rich if
And
we
Zig Ziglar
joined.
was in that meeting too, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, but he was, one buying unit. Rucker and I were another buying unit. So there were three of us listening to Bill Dempsey, but only two buying units. Rucker and I were in it together. We were so in it together. I was married, he wasn't. So I said to Rucker, because that's about what we made after taxes working for my father as food broker salesman. And I said, Rucker, you're not married. Uh, I'll pay you my half back. But since we're going by the office to pick up our checks, let's just endorse yours and we'll bring it back to Dempsey, and that's how we'll get in the business. So Rucker gave up his weekly paycheck to get
Oh,
us in the business. But I was sufficiently inspired to encourage him to do that. And then when we advanced ways and figured out the business would work, the next step was $2,500, which was exactly $2,500 more than I had. So
right.
I
If
turned
I
to
remember
recommend.
correctly, you didn't even have $3 to get out of the parking garage.
Right when we circled around, we were parked beneath the Trust Company of Georgia, a bank at 1447 West Peachtree Street. Trust Company is gone, but I'm sure the building is still there. When we went down, got in our car, and circled to get out, there was a guy leaning out of his booth with his hand out to collect the $3 parking fee unless you've gotten your parking tab validated. Well, you did that with the trust company of Georgia, and we weren't in that building for that reason. Never crossed my mind. So we just looked away from the guy with his hand out over at the wall and drove right past him. But we learned that when you went into that building, you needed $3. I'd like to say we paid him back, but I'm not sure. I don't remember that, so I don't think we did. But again, so we needed 2,500 to move up to master distributor level, and you wouldn't believe this, but Rutgers 1957 Chevrolet, worth a lot of money now, was worth about $2,500 then. So I talked him into selling it and having my father lend him a company car, keep wheels under him. And he sold his prize 57 Chevrolet, and we became master distributors.
And what astonishes me, honestly, is that you guys are still the best of friends.
Yeah, but he still bitches about the
Well,
Chevrolet.
yeah, I'm mad on his behalf. I mean, you would have never gotten that car out from underneath me, I'm telling you.
And then we needed another 2,500 to become general distributors, so we took on a partner and talked him to putting a second mortgage on his house.
Oh, good Lord.
And for 2,500, and then we were general distributors. Now that's the good news or the bad
So
news.
sufficiently
It sounds like
inspired. Yeah,
we were sufficiently inspired by
right.
buildings. And then within a month or two, we were making 10,000 a month, and within 6 months, we were making 40,000 a month. That's 400,000 in today's money, part-time. Hadn't yet left my job with my father, and then he fired me. I don't know how many years ago. I'd have to figure backwards, but he fired me on August 22nd, my birthday, which is tomorrow. So it's the anniversary of being fired. And I was fired not for misbehavior or anything. He said, "You guys are making more money than I'm making, but you don't have the balls to quit. So I'm going to make it easy for you. You're both fired. Do you want your birthday present early?" Rucker said, "Oh, yes." "And do you want yours on time?" It was the 22nd. I said, "Oh, yes." He said, "Okay, here it is. You're both fired." As we walked out of the parking lot, Rucker said, "Thanks a lot. You've managed to do it again." I said, "Rucker, we're making 40,000 a month. Between the two of us, we were making $200 a week. I was
Right.
at 800, we're still ahead of the game. I wasn't pleased with it because I thought I'd inherit the food broker's business someday. Looking back, thank God I didn't. So that's how we got started. It wasn't courage. It was necessity. We had to keep eating. And my father's wisdom. Why are you two hanging around here when you're making more than I'm making, more than my business partner is making? The only thing we're missing here is courage. It was sort of a Napoleon Hill talk when Dr. Hill caught me dragging out some decision. He said, "Ben, you're dithering. Take
Right.
action."
That word is
So
up on my whiteboard. It is. It's one of my favorite words because every once in a while I'll catch myself dithering and then I stop and I look at the whiteboard and go, oh, yeah. So I dither a little bit more just to make sure I'm doing it properly. Then
Dithering is a skill,
it is. You have
to
to be
dither with,
dedicated.
to dither without being caught cold-handed. Dithering is a skill, but Dr. Hill apparently had seen that exercise before. Read something about it. Was not about Dr. Hill, but it was about Carnegie, who he worked with. He was
Right.
one of the 500 people he worked with. And I didn't realize the magnitude. We had a Carnegie library, probably had several, but we had one in our neighborhood back in Atlanta. And I didn't realize that Carnegie had taken virtually all of his money, which today's money, was about $400 billion. And he built, free of any mortgages or anything, 2,500 libraries around the United States.
I
Is that
didn't know that.
incredible?
It is, and I had no idea.
Yeah, if you'd asked me, I'd have said, oh, I don't know, 40.
I
I've
I
seen enough
didn't know.
to guess 40. 2,500 libraries that he bought, paid for, and left. And then it said most of them have been replaced now over the years because things don't stand up like they should. The one I used to go to in East Lake was actually Kirkwood, the next neighborhood over, was built of granite, Stone Mountain granite. If it were missing, it'd be because somebody tore it down with a bulldozer. It wouldn't have fallen down. But somebody, the last time I was there, this is years ago, there were flowers out in front and all. Somebody bought it, converted it from a library back into a private home. And I
Oh,
thought, wow, that's a classy operation. So I hope that's what happened to a lot of the 2,500 libraries instead of just bulldozing. But the magnitude of 2,500 libraries spread across the United States was just stunning when I read the figure. I just almost didn't believe it.
I've
I've
got
got
to
a
go look
couple of
that up.
I, I've got a couple of things that would have been questions or comments that I wrote notes on for Jason Wooliford that might fit in here
Oh,
about
yeah.
so well, Jason Wooliford, as you know, thanks to your help, is writing a book, Ben Gay the Third, Born to Sell.
I wasn't nagging. I was reiterating a tightly held position when I said you needed to write this book. No nagging. That's my
But
story.
anyway, I wrote them down for him. I think he's going to stop answering his phone because I'm always saying, do you have anything else you want in the book? Nope, I'm good. I said that to him 2 days ago. And then, yesterday. And this morning I woke up and made two notes. I've got to figure out a way to gracefully slip them in and screw up his book again. The
And then I just introduced him to Tony Robleski. I couldn't believe he didn't know him already. And it's like, hang on a second, you got to chat with Tony.
Yeah, that's nice. I appreciate that because I can't. All the people I didn't think of he should contact will contact me when the book comes out. Nobody asked me anything.
I'm
You know,
waiting. I got
yeah.
asked. So I'm going to tell y'all right now, I got asked. I'm good. I'm cold.
Anyway, the two things I'm going to feed to him are uh, after I was up and running, and I don't really remember where it was, Macy's or with Holiday Magic or somewhere. Somewhere along the line, I took what was called the Cooter preference test. I'll look it up before I tell him. I think Cooter is Kuder, but it's like one of those Minnesota mining uh, tests that you take to find out if you're good at something. I've always doubted their worth because it's hard to predict what someone's going to do in the future if you don't have a clear understanding of what they've done in the past. But anyway, I took the Cooter preference test, and it was pretty involved, and it was a couple of weeks before I got the results back. And when I got them back, I found them hilarious. And the next person I talked to happened to be my mother. I said, "Mother, you remember that Cooter preference test?" She said, "Yeah. What were the results?" I said, "Well, you're not going to believe this, but it said I should have been a minister or a social worker." And I laughed. Nothing, no response from her. And I said, "You get the humor of that?" She said, "There is no humor. That's exactly what you do. You've just figured out a way to make a good living doing it." I thought,
Oh,
whoa, yeah, isn't that semi-profound?
uh, it's a lot profound, and I'm going to have to sit with that as I'm dithering.
Yeah.
Serious. No, I would have never thought that, but it does make sense.
Well, between my general work in San Quentin and Lompoc, and the Lower East Side Teen Association, Bedford Stuyvesant, a stint in the slums of Toronto, And then just one-on-one with people in the day-to-day work that I do. I am a minister and I am a social worker because they don't all work. They don't all rise up and become millionaires. Convicts like Lamont Bowens don't all rise up and go to law school. So sometimes you're doing social work and other times you're being a minister. But I thank my mother for that observation because it gave me a much clearer understanding of what I do. And I'll have to look up Cooter Preference and see if it's still in business. If it is, it was sort of amazing because it picked a subtlety that even I, knowing me reasonably well, wouldn't have known. And the other one is a sales infiltration story. I didn't know of sales infiltration at the time, like a lot of people who did it. We didn't know it had a name and we didn't know it was repeatable or replicable. But I went to work. I was standing outside Murphy High School in Atlanta, Georgia. A friend of mine, Jerry Bell, came bolting out the front door. I said, "Where are you going, Jerry?" Because I think I was pretty much through for the day, which was true most days, starting earlier. And he said, "I'm going down to Davison's," which was Macy's way of not letting the Southerners know the Yankees were in town. Davison's was Macy's. So, I'm going down to Davison's and, my girlfriend, whatever her name was, I forgot, works in the personnel department and they're hiring people to take back returns the day after Christmas. And this was our senior year. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know." He says, "You want to come along? I think I can get you on." I said, "Sure." So I bolted and got in the car, went downtown with him, went into the personnel department, third floor of Macy's, and he got with his girlfriend to fill out paperwork, and I was assigned to Ms. Barbara Franz, which I thought was a really cool name. She was older than I was, but not even middle-aged and quite pretty, so I was fascinated by her. And in the process, keep in mind, this is one day to take back returns the day after Christmas. But they paid you for a week of training so that you could be efficient on the one day. The day after Christmas, taking back returns is the second busiest day of the retail business and very profitable because they're standing there with their refund as a credit or cash in their hand or what have you. And they're more likely to spend it before they leave the store again.
And there's sales everywhere you look. There's, after the holiday sales.
Yeah, it's a good time to spend that extra money. So anyway, during our chit-chat, while Ms. Franz was deciding to hire me, she mentioned to me or somebody nearby her, reminded them that she would not be there starting the day after Christmas, and because she was going on a 2-week vacation. So I made a little mental note, went through my week of training, served my day after Christmas, which was sort of a nightmare, on the floor, taking back returns and making people happy. And then the next day, next business day, whatever day it was, I returned to the housewares floor and clocked in on the cash register. And a couple of people said, "Oh, you're back. I thought you were just here for that one day." I said, No, I was hired full term. They go, "All right." So they gave me some assignments. And then the buyer noticed I was there again. He said, "I'm glad to have you back. I thought you used to be one that." No. And after a day or two of performing admirably, coming early, staying late and all, he said, "Ben, I'd like you to be our head of stock." That's sort of a iffy term, but you're in charge of making sure the stuff comes in, gets out on the shelves. Shortages are reported to the person who's in charge of buying that and all. And I said, "Well, I'm honored." And so now I'm the head of stock. Another week or so goes by, and I'm in the stock room doing something, and where somebody comes up behind you, you sort of feel a change in the air pressure and probably a little shadow change in light. And I turned around, and there was Barbara Franz, who'd hired me for one day.
And knew good and well that you were not on payroll.
And I said, "Oh, Miss Franz, how are you?" And she just stared at me and then nodded her head and said, "Nicely played, Mr. Gay.
It
Nicely
was.
played."
You saw an open door, and you walked right through it. So
That's right. So my first, well, that's probably not true, but my first sales infiltration in the corporate world was taking one day of work the day after Christmas and stretching it into almost 5 years.
and we need
But
to talk about sales infiltration because I have personally been a victim of it at least twice.
a victim of it, that's no
Victim.
way to talk.
Well, and you did it. We'll talk about because they're both great stories, and the sad thing is, Ben, the second time I knew what was happening, and I still raced in there and went, me, I'll do it. I knew I was being played. No, I was being sales infiltrated. Didn't
That's
matter.
right. That's different than being played. They're very similar.
They are,
Well,
but I knew what was happening and I was willing to be the victim. So there you have it.
folks, you have something to look forward to next week. She's going to rat me out.
Yes, again, every chance I get, I'll do it. Well, listen, everybody, what we've been talking, we're out of time. The
Yes.
difference, remember that when a client says they liked it, that's not a rejection. It means a door is open. And both of us are losing our voice today. So thank you for joining us today. And we will see you next week on the Closers Inner Circle podcast. Any final thoughts, Ben?
Nope. I'm a happy camper, and you take care of your throat, and I'll take care of mine.
I will. It's got to be the weather. It's hurricane season. That's always my excuse. It's hurricane season. So I will see you next week and happy birthday.
You have to call me tomorrow for that. That's August 22nd. I don't allow early birthday
Okay.
giving.
I will take it back. I, I'll call
Thank you
you
very much.
tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow. Bye.
Love you. Bye.